The Real Estate Photography Podcast is brought to you by tourbuzz.net, high-definition virtual tour and photograph hosting, now with interactive floor plans. Sign up for your free trial today. Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Photography Podcast with Mike Muriello. Today we have a product review of the Pixel LV-W1, and this is a transmitter and receiver set, which will really come in handy for pole aerial photography. Now there are a couple other units out there similar to this product, but this is the one I have, and I figured I'm going to give it a review. And I purchased this probably 2 months ago, and I've been using it solid for about 2 months. And I think I have used it for enough time and implemented it into my workflow, and had enough hiccups in it and enough successes to say, here's my experience with it. Alright, so what we have, like I said before, is a transmitter and a receiver. So what you do is you, just like you normally would with pole aerial photography, you put your camera on top of whatever bracket or mount you have on top of your pole, and now instead of doing guess and check, you can actually see, if you're using the camera with live view, what the camera is seeing, and then trigger it with the shutter release. So real quick, what we have here is the transmitter up here and the receiver down here. Obviously the receiver is wireless, and you have your on off button and your channels. You get 3 different channels, A, B, and C, and you can see the buttons on the side, same thing over here. You've got your shutter release, which is right here. You got your directional pad, and these light up to tell you what you're actually selecting. Back to the transmitter real quick. You have this cable which runs to the shutter release and then to the live view out. So your video out and your shutter release go combined into this one. And I'm gonna call it a USB cable, but it's not your standard USB cable, and it's some sort of proprietary connection which both supports the data of video and the ability to understand what the shutter release is doing. So we're just going to call that a USB cable, but just understand it's some sort of proprietary connection. Alright, so that's what we have here. I'm trying to think, is there anything else about this? No. Okay, on the receiver we have, like I said, it's wireless, but you have to understand this shutter release is a different wireless connection than what the screen, the live view connection is on. So they're 2 different wireless connections, kind of independent, which is definitely a good thing, which we will talk about in a moment. Alright, so what you need to make a system like this work is, it's not going to work with just any old DSLR. It has to have live view. And not only that, but it has to have a shutter release jack, and it comes with a few different cables. This is the shortest one, which has the shutter release jack, but basically this is not really a positive for this, but you've got to put an expensive camera on top of the pole. You can't just use the D40. I think you can use a D90, but I don't know how you would do that with just this here, because the D90 doesn't have this shutter release jack, cable release, sorry. Anyway, so that's kind of risky. You're going to be putting a camera that's a little bit more pricey up on top of the pole. If it falls, there's a little bit more to lose. But, you know, that just comes with the territory. So here's my quick synopsis review. It's very good. Now, it's not perfect, and it's not poor, but it is very, very good. Here's the pros and the cons. Pro is it works as advertised. You know, like I just said, it's supposed to be used for anything where you need a remote shutter release, but you actually want to see what you're doing. It works as advertised. It does function as this. You can see what you're doing. You can release the shutter. It does help compose shots, which is, once again, what it's supposed to do. And in this case, for pole aerial photography, you can stick that camera on top of that pole and literally look down at the screen as you're moving it and see what's going on. So you can see for straighter vertical lines that you want. That's really what I use it for, to make sure that my camera is on level. It's pretty simple to look at the camera and then physically look at the camera where it's pointed and see that you're centered within the house, but it's difficult to see whether or not you're on the right vertical plane. So this really helps you for that. The shutter is responsive. When you click it, or when you depress it anyway, The shutter on the camera will, I mean, I can't measure in milliseconds, but I do say it is very, very responsive. The time is right on. Another pro is the battery life. I think I've not had the need to charge it in the 2 months that I've been using it. I have charged it, but I haven't had the need to. The batteries haven't gone dead. Now, part of that is because I'm only using it for maybe 5 minutes at a time, and that's tops, 5 minutes tops, in the beginning of each shoot when I do the outside shot. Other than that, it's sitting in the case, turned off, hopefully. So I haven't had the need to charge it, but I have charged it. It's long, long, long battery life. It's good. Occasionally, here's a I do the pros, the cons, but there's a little bit in the middle that I'm not entirely happy with. Neither pro nor con. The middle of the run here is the display is fine, but it's not looking at the back of your camera. Mostly because it's being transmitted over radio waves, so that already decreases the quality of the video. The other thing is the screen isn't, well, it's not pixel for pixel accurate, and it's like I said, because it's radio, it's a little flaky. Comes in, goes out, comes in, goes out. Now, that's not really a problem because it comes in more than it goes out, so I can still compose the shot just fine, trigger the shutter. So the display is fine, but it's not great. Occasionally, when that sort of thing happens, it needs to be reset. The whole device needs to be turned on, turned off, and then when you turn it back on, it works fine. And the build quality is, I would describe it as okay. If you look up here where the transmitter is, now I'm not rough on my equipment. I do use it as tools. They're not to be babied, but I'm not throwing them around the case. It has all these scratches on it, and this comes from just being in the case. It's not the strongest build quality. The screen is getting a few scratches on it, but actually more importantly, it's getting dust on the underside. You might have seen that in maybe a less expensive cell phone or something. Because this is not sealed like I don't know, like maybe an iPhone would be sealed very, very tightly. Dust can get in the cracks on the other on the surroundings and really get underneath the screen. Very frustrating to look at. But fortunately, I'm not looking at it for much more than a couple minutes at a time. So, like I said, build quality is just okay. It's not fantastic. All right, so now I've gone the pros in the middle of the line. Now here's the cons. This shutter release, while it is responsive, on 2 different occasions, it has been stuck in the depressed mode, where it has gone down and it has not come back up due to some sort of you can't really see it, but it just goes down. Something made it stick down. Now that's a very frustrating experience because you need that to do the job now, right? So if you're counting on this to function and it goes down, it can be really, really frustrating. I've stuck a pocket knife in there and popped it back up. So, not the end of the world, but it happened on 2 different occasions. This multi-selector, you'd think you could choose the focal point. This is a D300 here, has beautiful 51 autofocus points. You think you could select them with this, but you can't. And I'm thinking that might not be a limitation of the device. I'm thinking it might be a limitation of the technology. And I don't know that the shutter release here has the ability to understand what the focal points are. When you do move these around, it selects between these 4, not the multi-selector, not the focal point. So just know that when you get ready to take an image of the outside of a house, you've got to pick your selection point prior to putting it on the pole and hoisting it up. Important to know. Okay, here's my 2 biggest gripes with the LV-W1. It has an absolutely terrible USB connection design. This little plug right here, I call it a USB, like I said, might not be a USB. It is symmetrical. So if you pull it out and then you go ahead and plug it in upside down, you are permitted to do that. You would never know that it's in incorrectly until the unit doesn't function. I recently posted, someone had asked on on the post where I originally mentioned this product, and I had said I'm having some issues with it. It's defective. Well, it turns out, this is really, really interesting. If you plug in that USB connection upside down, which you can, and you would never know that it's in incorrectly, what it does is it overrides the signal with a half depressed shutter. So what happens is the unit, the transmitter, is sending a signal to the cable release saying the person is pressing down halfway down on the shutter, and nothing you do can override that signal. Now, you think, well, I don't understand. You think, oh, I don't know, maybe I have to turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, because at this point you don't know that the thing is plugged in upside down. It's infuriating to think, why is it half depressed, and how come I can't override it? You unplug it, you plug it back in. You unplug it, you plug it back in. You take out the shutter release, you put it back in. You think over and over again, this thing is defective. Well, it turns out it is not defective. It's just a poor design. I really do not think any other cables that I've ever used could be plugged in more than one way. This is a problem. Fortunately, I figured out what the problem was and fixed it, but wow, very, very, very frustrating. The other thing I would have to say, I said there were two things I don't like about it. The other thing is the proprietary charger. There is a it's a very small, tiny AC adapter I'm in the United States, and it doesn't work in the United States because it's all European. So you have to use the optional small charger that connects to the USB. And the cord is probably about 1.5 feet in length, so it's relatively short cable, and you have to charge it via USB. That's your only option. Now, if you ever lose this tiny little cable, I don't know what you'll do. I don't know what I'm going to do when I lose it. So really make sure you don't lose it. Alright, so now that I've said all my cons at the very end, I'm just saying it's a very good product. It does more good than it does bad, and it makes my job easier, and I can make shots better. So I would recommend this product, the Pixel LV-W1. I'd recommend it, so check it out. Alright, well, thanks for listening, and have a good one.